But once again, I want to say good afternoon to everybody. I want to commend all the people here today. You have come out of your warm homes and assembled peacefully to show our collective support for law enforcement and their families. Across this country over the last few months, we've seen a small but a loud group of our fellow citizens protest against our men and women in blue. We've seen so many of our fellow citizens whipped up into a frenzy and pushed into racial fears and insecurities, all of which have been falsely validated and instigated by opportunists in a very small group, a very, very small group of high-profile, narrow-minded public officials. These angry citizens I speak of, and that have been seen on television, have been encouraged to do things like burning businesses, they're looting property, and violently abusing law enforcement. We also saw, as a result of this inflammatory rhetoric, the brutal assassination of 2 law enforcement officers in New York City. New York City police officers Ramos and Liu. Abuse and assassinations of our fellow Americans and law enforcement officers who took an oath to serve and protect us, and the very people that are protesting against them. Some citizens have been pushed into believing the narrative that white police officers are targeting black African-American citizens, a white versus black issue designed to divide us as a nation. Today, let us all stand here with law enforcement and their families. Stand against those who would call criminals victims and those who break the law innocent. Let's stand against those who wish to divide us based on only the color of our skin. Today, we as a unified people are here to take a stand and express our support for law enforcement officers everywhere. Let's put our hands together for them. Today, all of us, white Americans, black Americans, and Americans from every race and background, we stand here to show our support for our police officers who represent every ethnicity. We support every person and every race, color, and creed willing to put on a police uniform every day to serve and protect us. We stand here today as Americans and the citizens of Greater Lowell and the Merrimack Valley, unified in support of law enforcement. May the protesters and TV media outlets across the country, motivated solely on misinformation, hate, or discouragement because of incidents in Ferguson and New York City, may they hear our voice, hear our chants, and see our signs. May they know that here in Lowell, Massachusetts, together, we assembled peacefully and we were legally permitted. And that we respect and follow the law. That we expressed our rights as Americans to support our police officers. In just a few days, we will celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who stood, died, and represented peaceful protest and the equality of not only black Americans, but all Americans. He believed that all of us matter. So the next time we see someone say Black Lives Matter, say yes. Yes, they do. Black lives matter, all lives matter. American lives matter, and law enforcement lives matter as well. As I searched for the right words to say today, I was reminded of another tough time in our history. The night of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Robert F. Kennedy spoke in Indianapolis to try to make sense of the tragedy and try to calm the anger of the night. He said, and I quote, "What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence or lawlessness, but love and wisdom and compassion towards one another, and a feeling of justice towards those who still suffer within our country, whether they be white or whether they be black. To conclude, Robert Kennedy reiterated his belief that the country needed and wanted unity between blacks and whites, and encouraged the country to, and I quote, dedicate ourselves to what the Greeks wrote so many years ago, to tame the savageness of man and to make gentle the life of this world. So when we see our fellow citizens symbolically raising their arms in protest, raise your hands and say stop. Let's work together to heal the misunderstandings and show each other and law enforcement respect. So when we do raise our hands, let's salute the men and women in blue across this great nation. Let's remember the sacrifice and symbolism of this statue behind us, of Christos Roussos, the last police officer in the city of Lowell killed in the line of duty. And now, let's put our hands together for the police officers and their families in Lowell, the Merrimack Valley, and the United States.